Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the BGT Special where we discuss the action that is going on in the Border Gavaskar Trophy between India and Australia down under. After the many highs of Perth, it's been sort of a come back down to earth situation in Adelaide today for India. We'll discuss that and more with Sriram Veera joining us with his input from Adelaide later on. To start off, we have Mihir here in the show with us. Mihir, this kind of back to the regressing to the mean, as they say in statistics. Felt like that kind of a day.
It just complete deja vu, right? India winning the toss. The conditions looked a little dicey to bat first, and Rohit Sharma, as you expected, he took a decision to bat first. I don't know what he sees in the batsman, to be honest. It's reached a stage where it's all so predictable and fairly obvious. I mean, we discussed it in our preview podcast, right? That you give even mildly challenging conditions and Indian batsmen are all over the place, and that's what happened. It wasn't 36 all out, thankfully, so that's progress if we have to compare. But it was so bad, Vinayak. I mean, except for the first ball that Mitchell Starc bowled out. That was such a good start to the day. And from that moment, I think we knew where it's going to head as far as India is concerned. Very disappointing. I don't know how you felt coming, if you saw it coming or was it a surprise for you, but it was just very disappointing overall.
Personally, I think so. Yeah, like obviously improvement from the last time they were out in Adelaide batting. So
that's a positive.
Yeah, that's an improvement from what happened in Perth on the first day too, with 150 all out, but barely. I think this innings would probably disappoint them more than Perth, because there were mitigating factors in Perth. It was the first test of the series. There was a lot of question marks around the team. They were missing key players. So the 150 there, even though expected, was probably under mitigating circumstances. I think what happened today in Adelaide, after winning the toss and with the confidence of what they did in Perth, this is probably the most disappointing performance of the batting performance of the series so far from India. And especially because I think looking back, maybe, Yashasvi got a snorter, superb delivery first up, that moved so much from the leg stump angle, and that's typically difficult to negotiate first ball of the day. Maybe Rishabh got a really good delivery, maybe Ashwin got a really good delivery. But the rest, I think they'd be kicking themselves more than what the pink ball did or what the pitch did or even what Starc did, right? I think that is why this is a bit more disappointing, because I don't think there were demons in the pitch where they were collapsing from 69 for 1 to something 81 for 4 or something before lunch.
89 for 5 or something at lunch.
Yeah, before lunch, and then immediately after lunch it was 5 down. So I think this is what frustrates me, because it's kind of what we thought would happen in Perth and happened anyway, but you thought, okay, they'll come back and manage to, Bumrah's there and all that happened. But today, the bowlers too had, I wouldn't say an off day, but they were not at their best. And suddenly Australia are in the driver's seat, having negotiated the final session with just 1 wicket down. So I think it's probably the most disappointing day of the series. I mean, actually not probably, definitely the most disappointing day of the series of the tour so far for India.
You spoke about the conditions actually. I mean, there was some extra bounce, I think, for a couple of batsmen, especially KL Rahul, I guess, was done by with extra bounce. Rahul's quotes day before yesterday, right? He spoke to the media and he was talking about how he's now feeling confident. Doesn't matter where he bats in the lineup. One thing he said, which was very interesting, is that he needs those initial 25-30 balls to kind of get himself in. He did that today. He did the hard work. He survived a couple of times, the no ball of which he was dismissed and then rescued as well. He survived those 25-30 balls. He looked very good. And then that dismissal happened. It was like the bounce that, like we discussed, did him in a bit. But Virat, like Veera has mentioned in his report, that is, I guess, the disappointing thing. I mean, Virat and Shubman Gill, the way they gave away their wickets. I'll go back to Perth again, and the second innings, the pitch looked a little bit easier to bat on compared to the first. And those innings that some of our batsmen played, some of India's batsmen played, including Virat, it gives like a very fake sense of reassurance, that they're back in form and all. Today, it was again back to reality in a way. So how many times we'll just keep on saying the same things over and over, that they don't have the technique and they aren't patient enough and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we just like rehashing our old conversations and bringing them in new avatars, I guess.
That's kind of where the disappointment stems from. The weird part also is, I think Australia played a lot more like Australia today. I think we mentioned this a few times during Perth. That was the most un-Australian I've seen Australia, especially during bowling. I think Brett Lee was on air for the last bit today, and he was telling how, he liked what he saw from the quicks today in terms of the aggression. There was a spell, the second spell that Cummins bowled, I think, where he got Rishabh Pant with a super bouncer. He also troubled Nitish with a very good short ball. Stark was on fire every time Cummins bat. After the first ball to Yashasvi Jaiswal, he went off a little bit. He struggled a little bit with his radar in the first spell, but came back for the second spell, got Kohli and Gill immediately, then came back for a third spell and dismissed Ashwin, who was threatening to put on a little partnership with an absolute gem, and then Nitish was bowled immediately after. And incidentally, this might come as a surprise for many. This is Mitchell Stark's first ever 5-4 in Test cricket against India. For someone who feels like who's been troubling us for ages, this is the first time he's taken a 5-4. I'm guessing in the past we've been a little more generous in spreading the wickets around. So today it was all
Stark.
It was all Stark.
Yeah.
And quite crazy. And, we've been writing and talking about his record in pink ball tests. He came into this test with 66 wickets in day-night pink ball test matches. He made it 72 today with his 6-4. And the next best is, I think, 45 or 46 with Nathan Lyon and Cummins and Hazelwood to follow. So that's the kind of dominance he's had with the pink ball in his hand. He bowled superbly, no doubt. I think the Yashasvi Jaiswal dismissal set up the day perfectly for Australia. I also felt like today felt like a proper away day.
Yeah.
Right? Did you get that feeling watching on TV?
Yeah, absolutely. It felt like, first of all, 50,000 people in the stands. And for a change, majority of them weren't Indians, So that was the big change. At least it looked like that on TV. I don't know how it was on ground, but it looked like the locals had finally turned out to support their team. So that kind of changed the atmosphere. The conditions, of course, were different. I wouldn't say like they would be completely new for the Indian team, but they were different and made it a little more challenging. And I think just that whole Australian aggression that we haven't seen in the first test was back. And which is interesting, right? Because all the talk from Perth to Adelaide has been how this has been an Australian team which is divided, and everyone was having a go at Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark. And both of them today, like a few balls that Cummins bowled were excellent, especially I think that one bouncer that he had to Reddy, I think. It was, one of those balls where he pulled out very late at the last second. And the next one was a proper bouncer, old-fashioned, fast, and targeted at his head and everything. So that was fabulous to watch as well. And whatever we say, nothing matches really aggressive, fast bowling, a pitch that assists fast bowlers too. So in that sense, yeah, it was a proper away day for India and proper away day blues too for them. I just felt that Nitish Reddy looked good. With some support, I think if Reddy and Pant would have stuck around for a while, India could have inched closer to 250 or something. But someone mentioned, I don't remember who it was, I just was scrolling through social media and someone said that, it's unfortunate that Pant doesn't have the liberty that Gilchrist had, wherein that he came in at India at 350 for 5 or 350 for 4. He always has to do the rescue acts and never is able to freely express himself. And you kind of see the point there. Yeah,
I think Venkat made this point as well in one of the preview podcasts, I think. It'll be nice if Rishabh Pant has some company, longer company. But today he got an absolute snorter from Cummins, so not much he could do about that. Played briefly, showed flashes of what he is capable of again. But yeah, I think Nitish was, without doubt, the brightest spark of the day for India. Third innings for him in the series, and third time he's impressed with the bat in slightly different scenarios also. The first innings in Perth and the first innings today were kind of similar, but here he took his time today, and then once India were 8 down or something, he just launched, played some gorgeous shots. That reverse scoop over third of Scott Boland, I think that will be talked about for a while. But I think, that he's also kind of running out of partners all the time, and he's having to do this, accelerate from one end a bit. So that's not ideal. A word on India's bowling, I think, Bumrah again looked threatening, and there was a drop catch where Nathan McSweeney was put down.
But how many times will we depend on Bumrah, man? It's just getting repetitive now that the batsmen fail and then you just fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything that hope that Bumrah rescues you.
Yeah. And I think that drop catch will, come back to haunt India. If they had 2 down early and maybe the late night, last 30 minutes where the ball was moving around with maybe new batters in, would have been a different proposition. But Australia, they showed what the fight that they have in them. Nathan McSweeney and Labuschagne both rode, a few tough moments, but are still in the middle with only Usman Khawaja dismissed. And of course, Bumrah took that only wicket. So no surprises there. I think the support act went a little missing today. There were a few that beat the outside edge, but largely Rana and Siraj were short of the length. There wasn't enough consistent threatening of the outside edge or the inside edge for that matter. We didn't attack the stumps enough, I thought. Like, there was a lot of short balls that flew over and could easily leave. So bowling wise, I mean, for all the talk of India could threaten with their pace bowling attack against under pressure Australian attack in the night conditions, that didn't pan out today, and Australia have earned the right to take the dominant position in this match, if I could say that, because now they'll get to bat tomorrow morning under bright sunshine, 2 set batters. I think that's where I think India's true, the bowling mettle will be tested tomorrow. I think tomorrow is probably going to be the toughest bowling day that they've faced in the series.
I mean, you'd hope that since in the first session the ball did something, of course it was the skill of Stark as well that came into picture, but India have Bumrah, so you'd hope that there'll be some repetition of that, but that's like literally clutching onto the straws right now. It looks ominous.
Yeah, that first, the cliche is that the first 30 minutes, first 1 hour is going to be the most crucial. But the difference is Australia will be facing an older, softer ball as well.
That's true.
So I guess that is all from us. Before we wrap up, here's Sriram Veera's update from Adelaide and his thoughts on what test promises to display further. I mean, it's going to be a tough one for India from here on. So let's listen in. And with that, that'll be the end of today's episode. And we'll be back on day 2 with more.
Quite a day at Adelaide Oval. Over 50,000 people turned up. Apparently the 4th highest turn for a test match. And since it's Friday, the scenes outside now as wild as you can imagine. Just a couple of streets away from the stadium is the famous Hindley Street, a city full of bars, a street full of bars, and the cops roaming around on horses. And the Australian fans are cheering and loud, and they have every reason to be happy after a day like that. Because they were a worried bunch after the Perth test, lots of questions was asked, and they responded beautifully, especially after losing the toss. I remember at point, when 69 for 1, around like past 50, India were cruising along almost with KL Rahul, who got over his drop and wicket for no ball and stuff, playing beautifully, and so was Shubman Gill. And then for India to lose in that phase, courtesy Mitch Stark and probably the guy who started it, Scott Boland, that turned around the things. Couple of gifted wickets, one could say, loose dismissals from Virat Kohli and Shubman. I think that proved very costly. Suddenly India were 81 for 4, and that turned the tide. Post-lunch, the bowling got much better. The Australians, just not Stark or Boland, everybody started working together. They were attacking the stumps, and one by one, Rohit Sharma fell. Not particularly, nothing, he didn't do anything bad, just the ball lit back in. Rishabh Pant, who stood standing outside the crease, tried to negate that extra moment, was surprised with a snorter of a bounce from Pat Cummins, who otherwise didn't have a great day with the ball. But he produced, at the right moment he produced. Young, impressive Nitish Reddy tried to do his best, but 180. Now it was up to the bowlers again. So there was because of Perth probably, and because of the skill of Bumrah, there was the Australian fans and even the former players, the media rooms, lots of 15, 20 Australian cricketers around, almost very close to the media box or the print box, and they're all like, India got bowled out at the right time, it's twilight, the pink ball will move, and they were sort of expecting an Australian collapse, especially the top order, but they resisted. It has to be said the bowling wasn't too spot on. Ball moved, but they were shot early on or a tad too outside off stump. They didn't make the Australians play, and the crowd grew, and it was quite a day for the Australians. They even had a moment to boo because Siraj frustrated Mohammad Siraj because Marnus Labuschagne pulled out from a ball because there was a movement inside, so he threw the ball at the stumps, and that led to a big boo for a couple of minutes. Suddenly, it was as if Perth never happened. Watching cricket in Australia was just like the usual stuff, the one I thought it would be before India did that thing what they did in Perth. And now it's pandemonium at the streets near the stadium. It's Friday, Saturday, as usually nights like this where they go quite mad, and now they have an extra reason to go quite mad. Celebration all round. What will tomorrow bring? We have to wait and watch.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.